everybody, it's the Warhipster here, coming at you with another Contrast Plus painting tutorial, and today we are painting the Custodes Blade Champion. Yes, look at him, he's very cool, he has two swords, he's awesome, and we are going to be painting him today. So without further ado, we're going to jump in and start painting him. He has been primed in Grey Seer, and the colour we're going to be using first is Retributor Armour. We're going to be using this across all of his armour. Now, he's quite unique to the Custodes range in that he has quite a lot of clothes. So do just be on the lookout, because his arms, for example, he's got like a black cloth over them, same for his legs. He's not got quite as much gold armour as you would typically find in most of the other Custodes. So do just be a little bit careful. Keep an eye out. What we want to do, we want to get this Retributor Armour all over. Now there are a bunch of other gold details as well, but we're not going to do those just yet. We're going to do those slightly later. For now, we are just focusing on all the gold armour. So with that Retributor Armour applied to all of his armour, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Cygor Brown. I'm going to use this to paint in all of our sort of warm leather details. And this is going to be areas such as the wraps around the boots and on the gloves. Now we do have two different types of leather on here. We have like a black, and we do have this kind of warm brown. So we just want to get this all over these areas. This also includes the sort of tassels just there. But when it comes to like areas such as the little straps just there, you can see, we're just going to leave those because those are going to be the same black as the rest of the boots. So with that Cygor Brown applied to all of those details, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Basilicanum Grey and we're going to paint this over the top of our black details, because these are in fact going to be black. We're going to start with Basilicanum Grey to give us a nice pre-shade for the black Templar to cling on to. So this is going to include areas like the sort of, well, the bits that were remaining of the boots, so that kind of the toes and the heel of each of the boots. Like that. It's going to include any of the little black straps. For example, these ones just here on the end of that boot. It's going to include his trousers and his undershirt as well. Just want to get this in here. Like so. As well as areas, like I said, like the undershirt. Just in there like that. So with that Basilicanum Grey applied to all of our, what will be black details, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some black Templar and we're going to paint this over the top of all of those Basilicanum Grey areas. So I'm just going to start down here on the boot. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Blood Angels Red. We're going to use it to paint in all of our red details. So this is going to include areas such as his little skirts just down here, his cloak, both inside and out for now, and also the plume on his helmet. Just like this. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some thinned down Leadbelcher I'm going to use this to paint in all of our silver details. So this is going to include areas like the faceplate, all of the pipes and vents, the chain at his belt, and any other details that you wish to be silver. So I'm going to be painting all of like the little buckles and stuff around all of the little straps and things. For example, just down here on the boot. So with that now done, what we're going to do is going to once again take some Retributor Armour. I'm going to use this to paint in all of our remaining gold details. So this is going to include the decorative areas on the swords, for example, just there. And one thing I had forgotten to do was to paint the soft grips with the Blood Angels red as well. So if you haven't done that, do make sure to do that in just a moment. We've got areas like the hilt and the pommel of the sword. Like that. We've got areas such as little aquillas on the gloves and on the boots. And that one there. And any other little details. Like for example, the big eagle on the cloak on the back. So with that gold all now restored, what we're now going to do is we're going to take some Akhelian Green. I'm going to paint this over the top of our sword blades. Nice and simple. We'll start with this one. Just going to load up the brush, make contact towards the hilt, and just pull it out like that. Making sure that we just get it right into the groove of the blade. And right up to the hilt as well. Like that. So with that done, all of our base coats are now on our Blade Champion, and he's looking pretty awesome. However, we are not going to leave it there. We're going to now add some shades and then finally some highlights. Now the first shade we're going to be adding is, well, not really a shade, it's more of a blend, and this is for those sword blades. Now the colour we're going to be using is a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Contrast Medium and Leviadon Blue. And basically what we're going to do here is we're going to just load up our brush with this mix, like so. Take a little bit of that off, a little bit more. And we're basically from the hilt up to about halfway, just over halfway, we're going to paint this onto our sword blade. Just like that. Then what we do is we wash the brush, and then with a clean brush, we're just going to feather away at that transition, just smoothing it out so it goes from a dark to a lighter blade, just like that. I'm going to do the same again on the little blade. Just take a little bit of that, just over about halfway, like that. Wash the brush, and then clean brush, smooth up that transition. Just absorbing that paint and just wicking it away so it goes from dark to light. And it looks really nice. Like so. And of course we're going to do that on the underside of both the blades as well. So with that done, it's still drying at the moment, but don't worry, we're just going to move on to something else, which is going to be to shade all of the gold. And the colour we're going to use is a roughly 1-to-1 mix of Fyreslayer Flesh and Contrast Medium. We're just going to be putting this, as I say, over the top of all of our gold. So across the armour and those additional little details that we painted in afterwards. And with that done, we're then going to shade all of our silver using some Gryph-Charger Grey. So with those shades applied, our Blade Champion is now what I would call a Warhipster battle ready. However, we are not going to leave it there. No, we are going to take him to the next level. So what we're going to do is we're going to start by working on all of that gold armor and indeed all of the gold details that are present on him. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take some Retributor Armour and we're going to use this to relayer any of the wider open flat panels, just avoiding anywhere where that Fyreslayer Flesh is really settled. Just like that. Now you're not going to have to do this on all of the armor panels, we're just looking for the big ones, just to restore some of that shine and shimmer into the model. So with those large panels now relayered with the Retributor Armour, what we're now going to do is we're going to add some highlights. And the colour we're going to make is a roughly 2-part Stormhost Silver to 1-part Retributor Armour mix. And we're just going to take this, we're just going to start running this paint, or this mix I should say, over the top of all of our gold details, around all of the edges. So with those highlights applied, what we're now going to do is we're going to very quickly take some Iron Hand Steel. We're going to use this to relayer a couple of the silver details. So areas such as the face mask, just here. Like that. And similarly, the flat areas. These vents on the back. And then also this large vent just here in the middle. Like that. So with that Iron Hand Steel applied, what we then do is we take some Stormhost Silver. I'm going to use this to highlight all of the silver. Just by picking out all the edges like that. We're also going to use this to pick out any of the gems. Like that. And we're also going to use it to add a little spot highlight to the sharpest points on all of our gold details. So with that done, all of our silver and gold is now finished. And I think it looks really cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to highlight all of our brown leather. Now the colour we're going to be using for this first is Skrag Brown. And what we're going to do is we're just going to take a small amount of this on our brush and just very carefully start applying very narrow highlights. Just like this. So with that Skrag Brown applied, what we're then going to do is we're going to take a teeny tiny amount of Deathclaw Brown. I'm going to add this at the sharpest points on all of our brown leather. So for example, just there and there. A little bit on this corner of this glove here. On the top of the boot. So with that done, all of our leather is now finished. Well, all of our brown leather is now finished. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on. We're going to highlight all of the red details. The first colour we're going to be using for this is Evil Sunz Scarlet. with those Evil Sunz Scarlet highlights applied, don't worry if it doesn't look like it's really doing a lot on some of these details. It is doing more than you think. But what we're going to do now is we're going to take some Fire Dragon Bright. We're going to use this as our little kind of spot highlight, and our very, very narrow highlight, just on the edge of all of our red details. So for example, just down here on this sort of skirt, just add a little bit of it like that along that edge. Similarly on areas like the hair, just going to start picking out the tips of the strands, like so. And for example on the main cloak on the back here, just going to run this as a very narrow highlight. Along the sharp folds. And so with that done, what we're now going to do is just going to add a little bit of depth and a little bit of darkness into the interior of the cloak. Now the colour we're going to make is a roughly 3 parts contrast medium to 1 part Wyldwood. And effectively what we're going to do is we're just going to very carefully paint this over the top of the interior of the cloak. Just like this. So with that done, all of our red details are now finished and they look really cool. So what we're going to do now is we're going to work on all the black details, and the colour we're going to be using first for this is Dawnstone. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take some thin down Dawnstone on our brush. We're just going to pick a place to start. Now I'm going to start down here on the boot, and well, we're just going to start picking out all the edges. Just like this. So with that Dawnstone applied, what we're then going to do, we're then going to take a teeny amount of Administratum Grey. I'm going to use this to add a little bit of a spot highlight to all that black, just by picking out the sharpest points. So for example on these little straps here, and for example on the trousers, we've got this little bit just here, that little corner of the knee. So with that done, what we're now going to do is we're going to work on those swords. Now the first colour we're going to be using is Templar Blue. And what we want to do is you just want to very carefully now run this as an edge highlight across all the sharp edges on the sword. So this is going to include the cutting edge along both sides, like that, as well as the raised section in the middle. So that Templar Blue applied, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Baharroth Blue, and we're going to use this to add a highlight along the kind of Akhelian greeny bits that's still showing through. So the Leviadon Blue bit is where it kind of stops. So you want to get it along that bit there towards the sharp part of the blade. Similarly on the kind of in a little bit like that, and again on the tip of the blade as well. just like that. So with that Baharroth Blue applied, what we're then going to do is going to take a small amount of Corax White, and then just towards the absolute tip of the blade, I'm going to add this as a little highlight. Like that. Make it look nice and sharp towards that top end. And similarly, just across that little bit there. Like that. So with that done, what we're now going to do is just going to very quickly take a little bit of Templar Blue, and then just along the flat of the blade in the Akhelian Green type areas, what we're going to do is we're going to add some very subtle little tiny little lines to look like the lightning. Coruscating off the blade. Like that. And so with that Templar Blue get applied, what we then do is take a really tiny amount of Baharroth Blue. And we're just going to add this as a little kind of spot highlight to some of that lightning that we've just added. So with that done, our blades are now finished and our blade champion is very nearly there. He's just got one thing left to do, and that's going to be all of the gems and his eye lenses. Now the colour we're going to be using for this first is Talassar Blue. And what we want to do is we just want to start picking them all out with the Talassar Blue that we previously painted that Stormhost Silver over the top of earlier on when we were doing the armour. So we're just going to find all of the gems. There's a lot of gems, as per usual with a custodian. And as I also mentioned, we're going to drop this Talassar Blue into the eye lens as well. So with that done, what we're then going to do is we're going to take some Baharroth Blue, and we use this to highlight the lens by just drawing a little line going across the middle of it, like so. And we're also going to highlight the larger gems, so for example this one on the chest, by just drawing a little highlight around the bottom right corner of each of them. And with that done, what we then want to do is take a teeny tiny amount of Corax White, just add a little dot of this in the opposite corner of each of those gems that we've highlighted. So this big one here, and these ones on the shoulder, sword, elbow, same on there. And then on the lens, just want a little dot of it in the far corner. Like that. Same on the other side. Like this. And so our base has been completed in the same style as my upcoming Emperor's Chosen Adeptus Custodes army, and I'm very pleased with this Blade Champion. He's ready to lead the line and become the absolute blender he was designed to be. It's really cool model. I love the alternative build with the two weapons. I'm surprised it wasn't in the previews, but there you go. Yeah, it's so dynamic, and you don't see this often from Custodes models, but they absolutely nailed it with this one. If you enjoyed this video, you love the channel, and you want to support me further like these legends and bosses on the screen before you, you can do so. Head to patreon.com/warhipster or head to ko-fi.com/warhipster. Alternatively, you can now become a YouTube channel member by heading to the channel page and clicking on the join button just here, just like these absolute bosses have done. And if you just want to shoot me a little thanks, just because you really love this video, you can click on the thanks button just below this video. Don't forget to share it, like it, comment on it, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And to make sure you stay up to date, don't forget to click the bell icon. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all very soon in the next one. Happy wargaming.